Okay, David, how are you doing? Are you ready? Shall I throw to you? You're muted.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Sorry about that. Yeah, let me share my screen here. Hopefully you can see my screen now.
Yes, we can.
Fantastic. So I'd like to talk through very fast a lot of different aspects of the climate change AI community. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm a computer scientist, but I am also an amateur birder and lepidopterist and really enthusiastic about the various communities that are represented here. It's fantastic to talk with you all. I am one of the co-founders and chairs of Climate Change AI, which is a global nonprofit which catalyzes impactful work at the intersection of climate change and machine learning via a number of different things. We have a global community of diverse stakeholders across many different sectors and backgrounds. We guide impactful work through educational resources and programs, which I'll talk through a little bit more. We fill gaps in essential infrastructure via funding, tools, and other kinds of infrastructure like data sets. And we advance discourse and advise relevant players from policymakers to companies to researchers within this space. And I'm going to talk through a bunch of our initiatives really fast in these 5 minutes. We are a volunteer-driven organization. We have about 50 people running the organization, and that supports a broader community of about 10,000 folks, including researchers, practitioners, policymakers, and many other people. What really is the space of climate change and machine learning AI? It involves a lot of different things. It includes some aspects of biodiversity and conservation, but it also includes electricity systems, land use, transportation, heavy industry, climate modeling, climate science, and many other areas. And so many different communities fall within the scope of climate change AI, and we work very closely to try to maintain relevance within a huge number of very diverse communities by running programming specific to different communities and by bringing in people who aren't necessarily aware of the intersections of these different communities. I think that one of our strengths is in connecting folks from very different backgrounds. So, for example, the machine learning and AI community often doesn't really know how to work on climate change or ecology relevant problems and needs entry points, needs introductions, and connections to relevant people who can facilitate that kind of knowledge sharing. So we've done a lot of different things, but I wanted to, before I get again to Climate Change AI's initiatives, I want to quickly talk about the overlap with this community specifically. Many areas of conservation work overlap pretty heavily with climate change work, either in the adaptation space, responding to the effects of climate change, or in the mitigation space. And we try to have a very big tent when it comes to thinking about these topics. Some of the relevant applications of machine learning and AI that we've seen, many of which you may be aware of or are working on, include image identification, for example, citizen science like the INAT tool, camera traps like the mega detector, remote sensing, everything from land cover classification, as we were just talking about, carbon stock estimation, plant phenology, sound ID and bioacoustics, species distribution modeling, marine robotics, so like literally control algorithms for robots, and many other things. So this is why you should care about this kind of intersection with machine learning, and why many of these areas are really relevant to our community as a climate change and machine learning community. So very quickly, going through some of the things that, reasons why you might want to engage with the climate change AI community, we have a number of reports which try to provide an overview of the space to different audiences. Tackling climate change with machine learning is intended for a research audience, primarily people who are interested in seeing where machine learning can be relevant in different areas of climate action. We have this report for policymakers providing recommendations for government action. This is a video tutorial that we produced really briefly, really recently for the International Conference on Machine Learning, if you're interested in an overview of the space. We have an events series, including at all these different conferences and other events. These are the flagship machine learning and AI conferences. Also at the COP, which here is the climate COP, not the biodiversity COP. We have an upcoming workshop at NeurIPS on December 9th, which you can find out information about here. You can find video recordings from our past events here, and you can search through papers here, including by keyword. So if you're interested specifically in ecology relevant papers, that might be a way to go. We have a community platform where you can engage with other folks interested in this intersection, ask questions, and form collaborations. We have a summer school, which focuses broadly on the intersection of machine learning and climate change. Obviously, there is the Caltech summer school specifically for computer vision and ecology. This is a much broader scope, both of techniques, it's all of machine learning, and of application areas. There's one track for those with machine learning expertise, and there's another for those with climate change relevant expertise. So if you're coming in with different kinds of expertise, we try to cater to that. Applications for the next cycle will open very soon, and here's information on the last year's version. We have an innovation grants program. Last year, we gave out $2 million in funding to innovative projects at the intersection of machine learning and climate. The focus is on pathway to impact rather than on research innovation. We're not looking for cutting edge machine learning here, though you're welcome to do that. But really, we want to fund projects that are bottlenecked in terms of actually having a meaningful impact. There should be a novel data set produced that catalyzes additional work. We think many projects will actually produce that. If you're interested in more details, look at last year's call here, and there's a new call which will open soon. We have webinars and happy hours every month for our webinars and every 2 weeks for our happy hours. More information on our website. And here's our newest initiative, looking for ML volunteers. Very excited to launch this. If you would like an ML expert to work on a small, like less than 20 hours project, we are going to try to help match you with volunteers from our community. You can fill out your project details here. And then finally, you can sign up for our newsletter, which gives information on a lot of these different initiatives and on the space overall, which has calls for submissions, funding, projects, readings, jobs, and other stuff. Thank you very much, and I look forward to your questions.
Awesome. Carly's already given your newsletter a shout out as an awesome compilation of events, papers, jobs, and resources. So thumbs up from our community already. And do you want to jump in and ask your question?
Me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no, not you, Carly. Oh, it's going to Anne B. Sorry, Carly.
Sorry, didn't get that. Hi.
No, sorry.
Having
Sorry,
dinner at the same time. So no, all good. I was wondering how you get all this distributed. You're producing so much knowledge, and especially for policymakers, it's probably super relevant. So I'm wondering where your connection points there, and yeah, where's your area where you're distributing this, especially to policymakers.
A lot of different areas. So we wrote that report for the Global Partnership on AI, which is an OECD initiative that is quasi-governmental. And so it directly interfaces with policymakers. We also are asked to advise a number of policymakers. So for example, I was just talking with actually the chancellor of Germany about this. They're very interested in working on this area as a means of advancing climate action and also their AI ecosystem. And we've advised policymakers in like the EU Parliament, the US, various different branches of government, half a dozen different countries, governmental organizations. But mixture of policy briefs and direct interventions with policymakers.
Carly's asked something about WILDLABS doing a volunteer matchmaking sort of thing, and we found that's a really it's admirable you're trying that. It's a tricky thing to do. How can you tell us a little bit more about it? Have you seen it be successful?
This is a new project, so we can't say whether it's going to be successful or not, fingers crossed. We are looking for a fairly narrow scope here. Like we're specifically asking for people who need ML expertise for a short, well-defined project. If it's a long project, you shouldn't be bringing on a volunteer, you should be bringing on a paid staff member or a student.
Yeah.
This is specifically in the case that somebody is in an area that doesn't have, you don't know stuff about machine learning, but you want maybe you have some old code that somebody gave you and you'd like to update it for the newest version of PyTorch or TensorFlow or something like that. How do you do that? You'd like to re-implement something that's already coded up in your software stack. Maybe that's the kind of bite-sized task that would be really useful to have an experienced ML engineer do, which doesn't require really any kind of innovation. So that's the kind of task that we're looking for. And there are so many people who are eager to help, including many who are coming from well-paid jobs in software, right? So this is a particular niche where we see the volunteer aspect as being particularly meaningful, because there is that space of volunteers and there is that need for this kind of volunteership.
I think the narrow scope is the trick here. That also sounds gives me an opportunity to plug our AI for Conservation office hours is going to be back in the next month or two, which kind of slots in quite nicely or complements what you're doing with that volunteer thing. So maybe we should try and coordinate a little bit. But our AI for Conservation office hours matches.
That would be great.
Conservationists with AI challengers who could just really use like some time talking to a data scientist. We matchmake them. Dan's on the call. We matchmake them with Dan and his various network. Hi, Dan.
Hi, Dan. Good to see you.
His various network of folks. So I wonder if there's some like little pieces of coordination we could do that could slot in. But let's pick that up later.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Thank you so much, David. What a delight to hear from your community, and I look forward to finding ways for ours to build some bridges.